I could be arrested and charged with terror offences for saying, well, I think what they did was entirely morally justified. I think it was brave.
People could actually be locked up for journalism. Where have you been, you silly bint? Breaking right now, Britain's deranged mainstream media communist Ash Sarkar has just been exposed. Exposed as the worst type of left-wing hypocrite who only gives a damn about free speech when it's her who is facing being locked up in prison. When it's her who is facing the same type of treatment suffered by Tommy Robinson, Britain's biggest political prisoner. When it's her that could find herself behind bars for a social media post just like Lucy Connolly, just like Wayne O'Rourke, just like Julie Sweeney. Now, this is because, of course, her heroes in Palestine action are about to be prescribed as a terrorist group. And Ash Sarkar has had a little revelation that this means people could actually be locked up for social media posts. People could actually be locked up for journalism. Where have you been, you silly bint? Watch this. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address, and sign up today.
I could be arrested and charged with terror offences for saying, well, I think what they did was entirely morally justified. I think it was brave. I think it was honourable. And I think that it was a small crime committed in service of preventing and drawing attention to a much greater crime, which is the crime of genocide. That's something which could see me charged with a criminal offence and even serving prison time. And what worries me about the direction of our political culture is that no journalists seem to be calling that part out. You've got a small minority of journalists who have been talking about this element. But if you listen to LBC, if you turn on the BBC, if you read most newspapers, yes, no one is talking about the freedom of expression angle of this.
Oh my God. You absolute fool, Ash Sarkar. Because your silence on this issue for months, your failure to speak up for Tommy Robinson, your failure to speak up for Lucy Connolly is why you're in this position. Now, I would actually have some sympathy for some of those journalists on the left if they were not such hypocrites. Because trust me, they all think Tommy Robinson should be behind bars. They all think Lucy Connolly should be behind bars. Most of them have said it, and certainly none of them have come out publicly and said, what about free speech? So to my superstar panel, Eddie Alexander, Father Calvin Robinson. Father Calvin, this makes me utterly furious, as you can probably tell, because let me just be very clear. I am not a hypocrite on these matters, and I know some people in the Outspoken audience will disagree with me on this, but you will note, Father Calvin, I have not once backed this political prosecution of kneecap, for example. I think they're fools. I think they're absolute idiots. But just like Gary Lineker, I think they have a right to say what they think. But Ash Sarkar is all of a sudden horrified. Oh my God, I could end up in jail. It's like, this is already happening. This is already going on.
Yeah, I don't know Ash Sarkar, but I've seen her content over the years. I think she's probably not very smart, bless her, but I don't hold that against her. I think it's actually a good thing that she's waking up to the fact that we have a lack of free speech in this country. Yes, it is a bit late in the day, and yes, it's only because it affects her personally, and that's quite selfish of her, but at least she's waking up to this. So if the left start to realize this too, that actually it's not just about cancelling the right, it's about cancelling anyone that says anything that the people in power don't want to hear, then we'll have a bigger cohort of people fighting this good fight for common sense and free speech, which is what we need. need. We do need the left to join this battle too. The left used to fight for free speech, but in recent years they've been all on board with, in fact, they were the ones who orchestrated cancel culture because they couldn't hear any views that differ from their own, because they have an ideology that is like a cult, essentially, and doesn't stand up to challenge reason or debate. And that's why they've had to silence us for so long. But now, if they're going to start getting silenced too, maybe we'll have more people in this fight.
The thing is, they want us silenced, though, Father Calvin. They want you silenced. They want me silenced. They all campaign to get us all sacked from GB News, for example. They all campaign to get GB News shut down. So they are total hypocrites when it comes to this. It's not that they're waking up about free speech. They're just waking up about the fact, oh my goodness, this could impact us because the Labour government are actually cracking down on Palestine action specifically. And I always think about this, Eddie Alexander. I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, the Novara Media YouTube channel was taken down. And it was a free speech outrage. And guess who stood up for Novara Media immediately? Me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Brendan O'Neill, all of their enemies stood up for Novara Media because we said, you still have a right to free speech. Have they ever done that for us? Nope, never. But first, this episode of Outspoken is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. And I'm very excited to say the heat has officially arrived overseas because the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in the white hot special edition colorway from Manscaped, now available across the UK, Europe, and Australia. So this is the same trimmer trusted by millions of men down below, now with a clean white and gold finish that looks just as smooth as it shaves. But it isn't just a pretty face. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is built to handle your most sensitive areas with care, helping reduce the risk of nicks, cuts, and irritation where it matters most. So whether you're cleaning things up for a date, a trip, or just to feel a bit more put together, the white hot trimmer makes below the waist grooming a whole lot smoother. Literally. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. And by the way, to the ladies in the Outspoken audience, trust me, this is a fail-safe gift for your boyfriend, your husband, your son, your brother, or your hard-to-buy-for male best mate. And it's great as well. Such a good product. The blades designed to glide over the skin with less tug and pull, helping the bloke in your life avoid the usual redness or irritation that comes with lower quality trimmers. It's simple, effective, and doesn't require a whole routine. Just pick it up, clean it, move on. Whether you're using it in the shower, on the go, or standing over the sink before a night out, the White Hot 5.0 Ultra fits into your day without getting in the way. Plus, the white and gold design actually looks so good. I don't think you're going to want to hide it in that bottom drawer of the bathroom anymore, right? White Hot looks, smooth results. The White Hot 5.0 Ultra brings the heat without cooking your skin. It's sleek, easy to use, and way less terrifying than whatever you were using before. So use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order. There's so much other good stuff at manscaped.com. That's 15% off with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. But now, back to the show.
Absolutely. And what I found interesting is Narinda saying that she could be arrested for supporting them. Well, Ash, here's a suggestion for you. If you don't want to be classed as a terrorist, if you don't want to be arrested for supporting terrorist organizations, like we see them blatantly calling for hatred of all people in London every single weekend. Just last weekend, we saw the Palestine Action Mob almost having fist fights with the police outside Downing Street. If you don't want to be classed as a terrorist, Ash, don't associate yourself with terrorist organization. And what you said, Dan, the shoe's now on the other foot for people like this young lady here. I mean, where has she been? She mentioned her journalist colleagues who are doing so well in standing up for her organisation, for the literal communists, her words, not mine, standing up for her organisation. Where has she been all of these years? When her fellow journalist colleagues, such as yourself, Dan, such as people like Tommy Robinson, where has she been when these journalists have been cancelled, when these journalists have had the full weight of the British establishment clamping down on them, both financially, both criminally as well. Where was she? So now the shoe's on the other foot. I find it very, very interesting how now all of a sudden she's for freedom of expression. Where has she been all of these years?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, Mike Jones posted on this. Well, he was responding to Ash Sarkar saying, if Palestine action is prescribed, I could be arrested and charged with terror offences. And he replied saying, Navarra didn't make a sound when nationalists were being arrested for posting inflammatory content, but now they're up in arms because an organisation they support squints attacked military installations and is now quite reasonably being described as terrorists. Utterly bizarre. And I think it is utterly bizarre, but so much of what these hard leftists do is utterly bizarre. And I want to talk about Humza Useless too, because since this guy left Edinburgh as First Minister, as the worst, most incompetent First Minister of Scotland, I know there haven't been many, but my God, he was disastrous. He is showing his true colours. And this dark guy is an extremist. I always knew he was an extremist. He was an incompetent extremist, but I always knew. Also racist. Of course, we won't forget his speech damning white people. But lately, the message that he's going with is that the West would suffer if it weren't for Islam. And I want to show you this video, which is a takedown of many of the claims that he made, which have been now exposed as lies.
Here's why Muslims suck. We invented algebra. Yep, that's right.
Well, actually, it was invented by Al-Khwarizmi, who was Persian. And his religion was Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest religions on the planet, over 3,000 years ago, long before Islam.
Oh, and coffee. That morning latte that you can't possibly function without. That was also us.
Coffee was actually invented by someone called Kaldi, an Ethiopian goat herder, around 800 AD.
Hospitals, we pioneered them too. The first ones with wards, with mental health care.
First hospitals were actually organised in the Christian communities within the Roman Empire.
If you ever survive surgery or have been prescribed antibiotics, then that's on us too.
Alexandra Fleming, a professor of bacteriology, discovered antibiotics at St. Mary's Hospital in London, 1928.
Also clocks. Mechanical clocks, to be precise.
The first mechanical clock was invented in China in 976 AD in the Song dynasty.
So next time someone says Muslims haven't contributed anything to civilization, just remind them, you're welcome.
Oh, he's creepy, isn't he, Father Calvin Robinson? He's also a liar.
Yes, the problem is Islam hasn't contributed much good to the world because it spread, of course, through warfare, through brute force. What it did do is it conquered lands that had contributed good things. And so the so-called Muslim world adopted lots of good inventions and people and forced them under subjugation, actually. If you look at the history of the religion of Islam, it hasn't had anything to contribute to the West, and the things it contributed to the East, it stole from other people. So he's a liar, outright liar, but I understand why. He's trying to make himself and his cult look good. The problem is, he lives in a Western society full of Western people, which he seems to hate. If he loves Islam so much, there are at least 50 Islamic countries I can think of over in the East. Choose one. Pick one.
What did you make of Humza Useless becoming some sort of weird influencer spitting anything but facts, Eddie Alexander?
Humza Useless is a truly, truly hate-filled person.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember
Oh, yeah.
sitting and watching his awful speech, and it was almost like I could have described it as a left-wing Rivers of Blood speech. Do you remember when he stood up giving his speech, and he listed all of the different people. He listed all of the different people in top jobs in the government, and he said white, 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 white. He is a truly, truly hate-filled person, and I think it's just absolutely laughable that he chooses to live in Western. Chooses to live amongst Western culture while simultaneously doing everything he can and taking every opportunity to degrade and to slag off Western culture at every single opportunity he has. And he was an unmitigated disaster. For his entire short term whilst he was there, he was an unmitigated disaster. He himself tried passing through heinous hate crime laws, which would have been a very, very, very dark thing that would have been passed. He still tried to get through them, but it is absolutely laughable, and I don't think anyone buys Humza Useless's shtick anymore.
Oh, we do not buy it. That is for certain. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.